Hi, so this video is going to be about when I actually passed my baby. So, my bleeding had been pretty light until the 31st of March, and that's when we found out that we miscarried, and then on the 1st it started to get increasingly more, and I had some cramps all day on the 1st, and then on the 2nd I had some cramps, and my husband had to go to work on Saturday night at 7:30, and I told him, I'm fine, it's okay, go to work. And like 10 minutes after he left, I started having contractions. Like, they were more intense than the cramps I had before, and they were regular. They were like 5 minutes apart. And so I went to the bathroom, and when I sat down on the toilet, like, something like plopped out into the toilet, and I got it out, and it was a large flat clot. It was like a triangular shape. It was probably bigger than a $50, and I started to bleed and like had some clear fluid that came out. And at this same time, my dog was trying to get on the counter, and he knocked over a vase of flowers that we had bought in remembrance of the baby. And so I had to hurry up. And so then I went and put my son to bed because it was his bedtime, and fed him a bottle and changed his diaper and put him to bed. And then I had to clean up the vase of flowers, and then I was having contractions this whole time, and then I went back to the bathroom and sat down, and when I sat down, something else fell out. And I reached down in the toilet and got it out and sat it on a piece of tissue paper, and I knew when I first looked at it what it was. And it was my baby. I held it in my palm, and it went from like the top of my palm to the bottom. It was like the size of my palm, and it had a head and little arm and feet buds, and then it had like a tail, like they say, like, and it looked just like pictures of early fetuses that I've seen, but it was very red. It wasn't flesh colored at all. It was very red, like a clot, but I'm pretty certain that that's what it was. And my husband, I showed it to my husband too, and he was pretty certain. And I didn't cry. Like, I had bawled my eyes out the days before, but I didn't cry because I felt like I was just in shock. Like, I didn't realize that I would have contractions, that I would actually be laboring out this baby. I mean, they had told me at the hospital, oh, you'll be in pain, take medicine, you don't need to be in pain, and stuff like that. But I was in shock that, this is my baby, it's in my hand, that I was having contractions. I was just in shock. And I didn't cry, and I had contractions for like 3 or 4 hours, and I passed a lot of clots and a lot of blood, and then I took some Tylenol before I went to bed, and I went to bed at like around 10. And then the next day was Sunday the 3rd, and my bleeding had slowed down, and and my husband had woken up from sleeping at like 2, and it was a really nice day, so we thought we'd go for a walk and take my son up to the little playground in our neighborhood. So, and I was feeling fine. I wasn't having any cramps or anything. And so we start walking, and I start having a lot of cramps and feeling like I'm bleeding really heavily. So we walk down to the park, and we let our son swing, and I sat down for a little while because I was feeling really bad. And then I told my husband, we really need to go back home. So we got back home, and I was feeling really bad, and I was in denial that I was feeling bad, really. And so I was changing my son's diaper and feeding him and starting to get dinner ready, and my husband's like, "Oh, can I help you?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine." And then he's like, "Oh, well, I'm going to go for another walk with the dog." And I was annoyed that he wanted to do that, and so we were arguing. And then I had, the food on the stove, and I just told him, I can't do it. I finally realized how much pain I was in, and I was having regular contractions, and they were worse than the day before. They were a lot worse. And I was, feeling when you're in labor, when you normally have a baby, you just feel like, oh my God, I'm dying, and these contractions were not that bad. They were the beginning moderate contractions, because I actually didn't have any pain medicine when I gave birth to my son. I had my son naturally, so I know how intense the very end contractions feel and stuff, so it wasn't that bad. But it still hurt a lot. And I hadn't taken any medicine at this time, and so I was laying on the couch, and I felt really bad, and I called my mom and was telling her how I felt, because my husband was scared that I was going to bleed to death. So I was laying on the couch, and I was feeling really bad, and then I got up to go to the bathroom, and so I sat down on the toilet, and stuff fell out, and it was bleeding really, really heavy, and I passed a lot of clots, and one, the biggest one, which was the most strange sensation when it came out. It was just it was gross. Really, it was really gross. And the clot was about that big around and that long, and the bottom of it was more gray matter, and it had a teeny little tail, and I don't really know what it was. It really looked like a full tampon or something, a really long full tampon. It was really strange, and it was very firm, and that's what all the pain was from, was passing this large thing. And I guess it could be the placenta. I don't really know what it was, but it was really big. It was a lot bigger than than anything else that I had passed the day before. And so I was bleeding a lot. I was soaking pads really heavily, and so I took it easy. I laid on the couch for a while, and I was still having contractions, and an hour later I felt a lot better. My bleeding went down, and I continued to bleed. I'm still spotting now, and it's the 12th of April, but so and that was the end of me passing. I still passed clots probably, I think, until the 5th or 6th. I was passing clots, small clots, but that was the end of all the stuff that I passed. And in total, I bled from March 22nd till today is April 12th. And for the past 2 days, I've had very, 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 very light spotting. There's a little bit on the pad, like, when I wake up and, like, at the end of the day, but hardly anything. So, and then once I went to that was Sunday, and on Monday was when I went to the doctor and told them, and they said that it sounds like I had passed everything, and that they didn't want to give me an ultrasound, and that they would just check my levels, and if my levels went down, then I wouldn't need to have any type of intervention. Thanks for watching.